Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back 1% of the account's net revenue to the planet at no cost to you. There's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement, and there's no minimum balance required. The 1% for the Planet checking account, only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette and Friends. From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my.
Oh no! The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
Hello and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Matiazzo. And today's guest is a comedian. She's a presenter, a celebrant, regular on ABC Radio Brekkie, and she's the ambassador for the Kids Foundation. Welcome to the podcast, Annie Louey.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm enjoying this setup that you've got, watching two little doggies have a fun time, one looking very relaxed and licking its paw.
Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, Annie. It's such a pleasure to have you. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, my pleasure too. I mean, we just were walking down the street and ran into each other thanks to a mutual friend of ours. What were you doing that night?
I'm trying to even remember. Melbourne comedy festivals seems like a blur to me. Like it just seems. Yeah. I think maybe
you and Kevin Croppinery were going somewhere.
Yeah, Croppinery. What were we doing? Did I just see his show? Maybe I just, look, Annie, I can't remember. We were doing something. Can't remember.
There's been many other events and festivals since.
How was your festival? How did you go?
It was great. I feel like I lapped it up, and not having a solo this year was a good idea. I had heaps of FOMO, but it made me see a lot of stuff and get inspired. And I am at a crossroads where I think, do I want to write a really solid 50-minute stand-up show now, or do I want to do more theatre stuff? Because the last show I had was heading in that direction, very theatrical, bit of storytelling. I had a musician play double bass live, and I thought, this is a great setup, and I could do it once and just have it live on the internet. So it broadened my mind about different ways to do performance. It doesn't have to be the grueling 3-week or 4-week run. You can have just as much fun too. That show was all about a big breakup that I had. So how relevant to what we might talk about today?
So good. Yeah, isn't it interesting how when you, music is such a different medium. I know a lot of comedians poo-poo on having music as a part of the stuff.
I don't know why they poo-poo it. I don't have the skill to play any song or sing. Why would you, that's a talent. You're ashamed of having multiple talents. This world is stuffed up, man.
It is, isn't it? It's so fucked. It's so fucked, Annie.
Oh, good, we can
really
swear.
Cool.
Thanks. I should have asked about that. Cool, great. Fuck yeah.
Mate, you can fucking say what you want, how you want to say it. It's so good. Yeah, that's really cool that you did a show about a breakup, because obviously, as you know, the show that I am doing at the moment and what the podcast is based on is the premise of my show, which goes through my experience of love, lust and whatever. Let's start at your first crush. Can you remember your first crush and the story around that, Annie?
Yeah, I reckon my first crush was, I would need to go back to kindergarten days. Maybe his name was Dimitri.
Oh,
and yeah, hello. I don't know where he is now, what happened to him. But I remember one day I was really sick at school and I just had a cold or something, but I still really wanted to hold Dimitri's hand. So I think we were on an excursion somewhere, and then they called up my mum and said I wasn't allowed to come back to school until I was better because I was spreading those germs. And then I think after that, the memorable one was probably grade 1 or 2, and this was quite a formative incident actually, because I wanted to sit next to a boy, and I probably was sitting next to him like a lot, and we were, talking a lot. I was always a bit of a big mouth, but the teacher called us out, and actually was really immature of her to say, like, it was something like, why don't you marry each other? Like, if you like sitting together so much. It was really immature for a teacher to say. So after that, I think it probably stunted my physical love language, because now I'm like not very touchy-feely as a person in public, and I probably can attribute it back to that.
Fucking teachers. I used to be a teacher as well.
Yeah.
So you got to be so careful as a teacher, because you don't realise what kids are going to take away from what you've said. Like they're, and because as teachers, you got so much going on in your brain, and so much is going on when you're a teacher, but you have to be so careful with the language in which you use when addressing students, in particular when you're having those quote unquote personal interactions about their social behaviour, because you can really fuck them up for the long run. You can really do some damage.
But I can see that, like, teachers do have a hard time. They're already thinking about misbehaving kids left, right and centre. So, yeah, probably just fell out of her mouth. But, yeah, that's nice to know that there's teachers out there who are very aware now about this.
Well, look, you'd fucking hope so. But there's still a lot of damage that I think gets done through just not awareness. And I don't know, I see it in some of, not all, so I'm not going to say it, all older generation teachers. I'm not going to paint that brush, but some I have seen, just because they're so removed from the age of the students, because they're so much older as a teacher, they can tend to forget what impact flippant comments can make. It's
Yeah.
Annie,
Yes. Well, thank you for...
It's still there, Annie. It's still there.
Yeah,
Still happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, thank you for... I feel seen now. That's good. Haven't talked about that experience before.
It's all about releasing the trauma.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we've opened the can of worms now. We've got to continue delving deeper.
So, as you said, that seemed to have shaped how you act romantically, like physical-wise, moving forward with relationships. So, do you think that had such a dramatic impact on how you are, even as an adult? Romantically?
I think about my family, Chinese heritage, and my parents also weren't affectionate towards each other, but they did have a lot of love there. And they were both quite cuddly towards us. But in terms of, it's pretty common, like we don't say I love you to, family members very openly. It's not a done thing. And so it probably comes from that too, not having a heap of role models in terms of what it's like to treat like an intimate partner. You just have to figure it out yourself.
Right.
Yeah, so like we introduced more hugging and things with my mum and stuff, so we can hug goodbye and all that. Yeah, but it wasn't like, we're definitely like kissing on the cheeks or on the lips for parents and kids is really not done in Chinese culture.
But then how is love expressed then, Annie? Because I come from Italian, French, Croatian heritage. So I'm only second generation Australian. So that kissing, hugging, touching, tactile affection all the time is something that is very, very much a part of my culture. So how then did you process what love looked like then?
Yeah.
Without those things.
The go-to is food, of course.
Right.
They cook you a giant meal and they take care of you, the things that you don't even think twice about. Like, I think they take quite a lot of pride in doing things for you, whether it's doing your washing, cleaning up after you, and not making a big fuss about it. Like growing up, we didn't even go on holidays or anything like that. So it was very much like home-based activities, or going down to the shops, or even a short car ride to go to a restaurant together was something that, was a big event, and all your family members like would show love through this getting together and talking and having a meal. Yeah.
So would you change then how you show affection? Would that be in line with your heritage, or have you rather in your relationships taking your own path in how you show affection and love?
Yeah, I think I'm more willing to compromise now if I know somebody needs that extra physical touch, especially, with the relationship I'm in now. His love language is physical touch. So, like, definitely even hand holding in public, just to let that person know, hey, I'm like proud to be seen with you. Or even little touches, if you're like doing something in the kitchen and you just reassuring, like, hey, or I think it makes a lot of difference. And I think there's been studies that show that even if somebody's stressed out for 1 second, if you touch them, it does help, and lowers your heart rate, blood pressure, things like that. So the importance of it I'm very conscious of now, and try not to be it's an easy path to use what I'm used to, which is like my more intellectual side, and not giving into the feelings of things, because I'm a thinker.
I love the way you said feelings. Yeah.
Ugh. Gross.
Ew, what are those things? Yeah. So I found during COVID, because I was single all throughout COVID, and yes, Adelaide didn't have anywhere near, if anything, in comparison to what Melbourne went through. I did notice throughout that time, just because of anxiety and fear and trying to do the right thing, I shut off a little bit that side of my affectionate, tactile part of who I am. And just like you were saying before on how touch actually does help with stress, anxiety, because it releases hormones and chemicals that diffuse those situations. I noticed a bit of a spike in my anxiety. It's an important thing. Yeah,
even as somebody who doesn't like it that much, when you're deprived of it for that long, including COVID time, you really need it. And it's the same thing with introverts. People said, oh, you must be loving lockdown. It's like, no, we'll also go crazy without it. We need and we need a balance. Everybody needs a bit of it.
Yeah, everyone does need a balance. Throughout your journey, and in particular, I'm interested to hear about the show that you put together about your breakup. So what were the aims of the show you put together about your breakup? What was it that you wanted the audience to take away from sharing that story?
I think it was my coming of age type story, and also around the age where my friends were all are all getting married now and engaged, and it's kind of pushing back against one, traditions and expectations, but two, also finding ways to overcome difficult situations. Like, a lot of it was about resilience and finding like new hobbies. It's never too late. So I got into cycling, and I talked about that in the show. Fundraising for the Kids Foundation helped me a lot, because that was something that I initially was going to do with this partner, that we thought we were going to go, do this like shared activity together. And then I thought, oh, actually, if I can do it alone. So it was a lot of this. I think I attributed a lot of my successes to this person. And then I realized that, it was like me all along, and it just coincided. This person was also in my life, but I already have the tools, and I don't think I'll ever attribute success again to another person.
Because we are so often indoctrinated to think that we are worthy worth more with someone attached to us than when we're alone. So
Yes.
it's a really interesting construct to dismantle and destruct, really, when you start to realize, actually, I have worth and value and strength within myself. I don't need to attribute the achievements through being with somebody. It's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't have the thought, like, down the track, am I going to regret writing this show? But I think it had to come out. It had to just be, the feelings needed to come out. And then after that, I spent 2 years being single. So I think the show was done in that time as well.
Yeah.
And I deliberately wanted to try it, like, to see what happens if I didn't really date and just spent more time doing things that I enjoyed. So that's when the career stuff really took off. And so now at the end of that, in January, I started dating, like, properly again. And
so
I think
does that mean, Annie, when you say dating properly? What does that entail?
So I guess I'd been on the apps on and off, just casually seeing what would happen. But then I'd always get frustrated because I don't know, the quality of the matches or things not really going anywhere. You're rolling your eyes.
Yeah.
And I'm a busy person and I've got things to do. So I like efficiency. And like, I think I was going a little stir crazy in lockdown. So, like, just needed something. So, had a few hookups. But then when you really start putting in some effort into maybe, like, maybe there could be a long-term relationship out of this, maybe there isn't, but I'm really willing to give it a shot. So that's when, like, you might download a few apps and, like, put more effort into replying, I guess. Because sometimes it's just there ticking along in the background. Some people don't even check it. Like, it might be once a week or once a month or something, which I think, why are you on there if you're not going to actually use it? And I'm really grateful that I had that 2-year period so that I have a much better understanding of my value and what I can bring. And I'm happy to walk away and say, that was nice, but no thanks. After a day. Yeah. And, like, in the past, I've always been the person who, because I'm a people pleaser, who has been the person who gets rejected, like, every time. And it's a new skill to just say no to people, and pleasantly too. And it's quite surprising that people have a good reaction if you do it in the right way.
That's so interesting that you say that, Annie. What I found in staying single, because I was single for about 6 or 7 years after my last relationship, and that's when I wrote my current show. Some of the things that you mentioned there really resonate with me, and what I'm finding is a challenge at the moment is having that time, being so independent, so sure of my values, my boundaries, what I want to do differently moving forward in a relationship. When I'm confronted with things that make me have to stay true to what I promised myself, that is a challenge.
Yeah.
It's really interesting in theory, collecting all these, okay, I will do this next time, I won't do this next time. If somebody does this or that, I will react in such and such way. And then when you're confronted with things that make you actually implement what you promised to yourself, it's a whole another ball game. And then, Annie, when you are met with somebody that actually exceeds the expectations of what you think you are worth and how you value yourself, and they show you a mirror to yourself that actually blows your mind, and you're being met with exactly what you want, that is a challenge too, I'm finding.
I find the rose-coloured glasses come on very quickly for me. So you need to solidify what you want way before you've even encountered a certain person, because you start excusing behaviour that you probably wouldn't have stood for when you were single. And so I've got extra awareness of that now, and how clingy I can be, because I've got the attachment style being anxious as well. So,
Yes.
even, saying bye to somebody, knowing you'll see them like in 5 days is like, oh, like, is it because I'm not good enough? It's like, no, I'll see you next week. I'm like, okay, cool. Still hard to peel myself away. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true, Annie. It's so true. I definitely need to know when I'm next seeing the person that I care about, because I need to set myself up emotionally and mentally to sustain, because I'm an overthinker, right? I analyze and can go too far sometimes in the way that I think and analyze things. So I definitely need a destination, and like you're saying, okay, when am I next seeing you? 5 days. Great. Okay, I can sustain my emotions and my balance and my well-being for that amount of time.
Yeah, and especially because ghosting is so prominent now that anytime you're not sure, you're always reading into the signals that they could things have gone bad, and maybe they're not interested anymore. So yeah, even once I'd kind of confirmed that I was in a relationship with this person, it was still like in the early stages, if they they haven't talked to me all day and I've asked them a question or something, I'm like, that's it. Because it's happened to people before, people in relationships, they just disappear.
Yes. Yeah. Oh God, it's so fucked, isn't it? It's so fucked.
Yeah.
It's so hard. Yeah. When you're expecting, when you're used to a certain amount of communication, and then when that communication stream stops for an irregular amount of time, we do immediately go into, okay, well, they've just ghosted me. I just have to close myself up again and move forward. Yeah, I totally get it, Annie. I totally understand what you're saying. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And they'll just go, oh, was it at work, or my phone ran out of battery or something? It's like, oh, phew. But, yeah, if people can just say more often what they're thinking, I think it would help a lot. A bit of reassurance for all parties. So.
Yes. So how do you have that conversation on, if you're dating someone or seeing somebody, how do you know that you're actually in a relationship, and what do you think is the appropriate amount of time to have that conversation?
Oh, really good question. I think when it was decided that you delete the apps, it was like, oh, shit got real. Yeah. But it was quite a funny dance, because it was like, look, you don't have to do anything. I'm just going to delete the app. And then I was like, no, I'll delete it too. He's like, no, you don't have to. I'm like, no, I will. I want, it's easy. It's already gone. Like, it was. So everyone was like, no pressure. Like,
yes,
it's all good.
The whole no pressure thing too. Oh, God, we'll get back to that in a sec. But let me know what you think on time frames, because the pressure thing is a real thing.
Time frames. I think it depends on each relationship, because this one, it felt like we'd known each other, longer, or like time was just flying quickly, which I know sometimes I think people say like it can be a bad sign, like you'll burn out too quick. But I thought, if I'm going to do it, I might as well fully commit to it. Like, I've learned a lot from previously, like not just closing yourself off to the point, where you're like slowly waiting for like 3 years. Like, then I'll let my real self like come into it. So I was like, no, because you'll know faster if this person likes you or not, because you're going to bring your whole self. And if they don't like it, like, this is me forever. So you can leave.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So like, I will let the intensity just grow, and it's a good thing. Because, if you're looking for someone that you can be with for life, that's a bloody long time.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think there would be a whole lot of stuff to navigate there if you are having to hold on to a certain part of yourself just to make sure that you're appeasing the other person to try and keep them around, rather than going, this is who I am. This is exactly what you're going to get. So if you want to buy into this is the product you're buying. Okay. Yeah. So if you don't want to buy into it, that's fine. I'm sure somebody else will. It's having that that strength and self-assurance to go, okay, if you don't like what you see, that's fine. There'll be somebody else for that person, and there'll be somebody else for yourself. But
and I think about it, if the worst case scenario is being single forever, that's fine too. Like, I think I would happily have a nice circle of friends, do some volunteering every now and then, keep busy, take up more hobbies. Nothing wrong with that. And once I got over the fear of that, it was not that daunting at all. And then I think, like, my mum's widowed, but she has plenty of things to occupy her, and she likes hanging out with us, likes cooking and going for walks. I'm like, simple life. That's it, you know?
Peaceful.
What more can you want?
Peaceful balance. How good is that?
Yeah.
How good is that? So let's go back to the pressure thing that you mentioned before. It's so interesting at the start of a relationship, or when you're seeing somebody or whatever it is, and you know that there's potential for it to go further, and there are conversations that indicate that the other person is thinking about you long term and whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There's still so much pressure to make sure the other person doesn't feel pressured. Because for me,
yes,
I don't want somebody to be with me because they feel like they have to, or they've been pressured into it. So there are so many times I find myself going, oh, but no pressure, like no pressure. And the response I get back is, can you stop prefacing it with no pressure? I want to. I won't do it if I don't want to. Like, it's okay. You don't need to be making sure that everything that you put forward in regards to us has no pressure on it, because it's okay.
Yeah. Well, you're both thinking it sometimes. If they mention an activity that you could do like 3 months down the track, and you're like, well, you know, but you've only been going out for like a month. It can your eyebrows both like twinge, you know. So I don't know if I've got an answer to how to navigate that, but I think it's nice. It's a nice thing to show someone that they're thinking about. You know, you're thinking about them long term. If that's what you want, or you both feel like maybe you want that. Yeah. I mean, don't do it on a one night stand. No. You know, come meet the parents for Christmas or something. But yeah, my boyfriend now says the formula is you can plan something down the track that is far away enough as the amount of time you've been going out. So that it's like, you know, like now we can think about maybe Christmas, what we're going to do there, because it's been 6 months. But if you've been going out 1 month, don't go 12 months down the track.
Don't be talking about no Christmas shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be talking about that shit. So in relationships, do you find yourself getting into certain habits within a relationship just to keep the relationship going? Have you found that you've had to break patterns of the past moving forward?
Yeah, probably getting comfortable, like what stage, because I think previously, like, I'd moved in for a short period with my ex, but then, you know, the relationship got we were breaking up, so then I took my stuff away from that place. But yeah, now it's very different because we want to keep the spiciness alive for longer, I guess. So it's like, don't make yourself too comfortable, like at the house, at his place or at mine, because then, you know, you're not going on dates anymore, you're just hanging out at the house. So yeah. I can see how, yeah, like he doesn't want me to like grow roots there, which is fine. But then, yeah, because my anxious brain also thinks like, oh, you know, if I've got no stuff there, there's nothing like attaching me. Like next time I leave, like all my stuff's gone. Like that could be goodbye forever. Like that's just really dumb. But it's the same line. No,
I get it.
Ghosting thing. Yeah,
I get it. It's not dumb. I get it, Annie. Totally get that.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was speaking to someone the other day who's been in a relationship for over 30 years, and the first 10 years of that relationship, they didn't live together. They lived separately.
I think it's a great idea. I'm a big fan of the separate beds thing because you just don't get the same quality of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally, you know, you have your fun slumber party and then you've got another bedroom and you have amazing sleeps.
Yeah.
And you bring your best self after that. Yeah.
So how, as a performer, because we're both performers, I find, even though my current show and like your previous show was about relationships, I find I'm very private about what's happening in the now to some extent.
Yeah.
As I've moved forward, and because I was single for such a long time, there was never a moment where I needed to work out, do I want to, because everyone shares so much stuff on social media.
Yes.
And I've even thought, like, if I have kids, I don't even know if I necessarily want to share photos of my kids on social media. Like, I'm still very 50-50 about that, because I'm all about the individual's choices and decisions on if they want to be a part of, you know, that world.
Yeah.
How, as performers, how do you feel about sharing your relationship on social media? If you do, how does that all go for you?
Yeah. So relevant to where I'm at right now. Yeah, because this is the first time I haven't shared any pictures of my current relationship. And I'm seeing how that goes, because I have seen the nasty side of social media, especially as my profile is growing. And I think it is really nice to have something that's just for you as well. Like, my partner doesn't use social media much at all. Like, he doesn't have profiles on anything really. So he's, you know, concerned about privacy and things. And even, it's a totally different life for me to always be promoting stuff. And I think he said something when we were first going out, like, oh, you know, always hustling or always promoting. Like, you don't need to, you know, name drop this and so and so. And he's from New Zealand, doesn't know any celebrities here, so that's actually very refreshing. But yeah, my friends are like, oh, I didn't know you were going out with somebody because, like, you haven't posted. And I'm like, that pressure to post, and that it's only legitimate once you've posted. And it's always funny when that person doesn't even have social media and you're posting like love notes to them, or, you know, even like the Mother's Day or Father's Day stuff. And it's like, your mum's never going to read that. It's just for everybody else and for you to feel good. So yeah, it's actually quite different. But I guess as time goes on, I feel that the pressure is growing, because, like, imagine like you've been going out for like 2 years and that you get engaged, but you didn't post about it on social media, and everyone's going to be like, what the hell?
Who the fuck is this?
Yeah, like, what? She's got a wedding. I don't know who this person is. Like, yeah, it's not official till, like, you know, you do that picture like with the ring or whatever.
But really, like,
who's that bold dude?
Would you do that, Annie? Would you, like, because I'm even thinking about when I get engaged or married or whatever, I'm even thinking about not even putting that anywhere.
Yeah, and I've seen it from the side of being a celebrant as well. And honestly, a wedding can be as small and informal as you want. So, you know, what is the social media thing is like nobody's rules other than societal pressure. And I think probably Gen Zs are going to make fun of us for that, you know, because it's like we, you know, like, why do they all pose outside houses that they've bought and like think photos of rings and stuff?
Fuck off with that shit. Yeah, it's interesting, so very interesting that we do. Well, it doesn't sound like you and I. It sounds like you and I are the same with social media in that we share what is relevant to what we are doing performance-wise.
Yes.
Yeah. Very much to that. It's actually funny. I posted something because I'm working on my new show at the moment for next year, and I posted something that has like nothing to do with the current show that I'm doing, but seemed like a very personal post on Facebook.
Okay.
And the responses I got from people were so fucking hilarious.
So it had nothing to do with your performing. You just had something to express.
Well, it's got to do with the new show, but people don't know that. I just put that out there. And it was about, let me read. I'll read it to you because I want to see what you think.
Yes, please.
But you are so right with the amount that people post and stuff, and the sharing of such personal, intimate things. To me, in particular, a wedding is a union of two people. Like, that's such a private thing. That's such an intimate, private thing. I don't know if I want, like, when people like post videos of their like vows and their, I don't know, like, what, why, like, and I feel like social media puts so much pressure on brides in particular to have a certain aesthetic at a wedding. Like, I feel like a lot of what is put together for weddings in particular are just to service the likes they're going to get on social media.
Yes, so true. Yeah. That's a really good point. Like, I dare you to spend like 70K on a wedding and never tell a soul on socials. I wonder what that would do for people these days. You know?
Yeah, I wonder, because that's what the only time, say, like our parents were able to show off their wedding stuff was if someone was at your house and looking through your album.
Oh, yeah.
You had to get a fucking album out and sit down and go through the album.
Like, you want to watch the VHS of the ceremony? Pop it in.
Yeah, and that was like on silent movie. Like, I remember my parents' wedding, you couldn't hear anything. It was just yeah.
True. Thinking back to like funniest home videos, there were a few wedding time ones. I don't think there was any sound. Yeah. Oh, what an industry it's become. Yeah. But yeah, that also, like, changing pathways. Like, I feel more comfortable talking about this on a podcast and posting about it on social media. But this is a very interesting period of my life where like sexuality has been coming up for me, like realizing that I'm not 100% straight, and you know, using labels and things. I'm coming into the like comfort of identifying as bi, but like, I'm not going to post it on social media. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like there's immense pressure for you to do that, or like have your coming out story. And it's like, I need time to figure it out. And like, how does social media and like all of the portrayals of putting yourself out there, like, or, you know, signaling and all these things to be, you know, a good member of the community, etc. Like, how do you navigate all of these different things while I was still, because I kind of regretted going back on the apps and just looking for dudes, because I was like, oh, but my profile's like growing, and I'm afraid that if I turn on like men and women, that people are going to be like, oh, I found Annie Louey.
Oh my God.
Like, you know, and I didn't want it to, like, I didn't want someone else to out me. I wanted to do it myself, like, when the time was right. But then I'm like, damn, I just got in a relationship with a guy, and now, you know, the track record is going to be just like, you know, she's so straight. So I was, kind of, it's been quite interesting actually, but being in a relationship and confident about who you are, like, I know this for certain, but at the same time I can be in a relationship with somebody and be confident in that relationship as well. Yeah
Social media has really fucked us up in a lot of ways.
Yes, exactly, because like, you know, I'm comfortable kind of talking to my friends and things like that, but then it's like, oh, is it real if the internet doesn't know certain things about you? But you were going to show me your status, or
just go on that point. It's social media in particular and the internet make us ask ourselves questions that we don't need to ask ourselves. Like, in regards to, is my sexuality valid because I haven't posted about it? Because I haven't, you know what I mean? Like, it's putting that extra, like we were talking about before, pressure on us to have to declare and announce who we are to the world, because we feel like if we don't do that, then it's not real.
Yes. Yeah. You've summed it up perfectly there. The validation that we seek so much. Yeah.
And that wasn't around when we were growing up, Annie. We didn't have that.
Yes.
So it's interesting. Our generation has gone from being completely, what's the word? Anonymous to a certain extent. And then when MySpace came about and then when Facebook came about, that's when you started like getting, but there's generations now that know nothing before that. So I wonder how that's affect, or maybe like you said before, they'll be laughing at us for sharing so much shit and they'll be like, we don't even want to use these stupid platforms. What are they doing? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook is now known as the place for boomers. So it's already, things are changing, you know?
Yeah.
What are TikTok proposals going to look like? What are they going to look like?
Yeah. Oh, I can't even, I'm not on TikTok. It's just too much for me. I've already got the other shit. I can't do TikTok as well. Like, just too much. I can't do it. Yeah. Too much
Pick your stream. Yeah.
So the post that I was going to share with you where it's, so my new show is going to be about periods, women's bodies, and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
And it's going to be ha-ha funny, but it's going to be educational through ha-ha funny and shit too. So I'm going through creating that at the moment. And so obviously because I'm looking at different like Instagram posts or I'm doing certain Google searches, I'm getting certain things in my feeds now. So I saw this on, I think it was Instagram. So this is what the post said. So it's a snapshot of somebody's Twitter, I think. And again, I'm terrible with Twitter. That's another social media platform I'm really bad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, who cares what I think? I don't need a fucking... Anyway, that's another story. Okay, so this is the post. The responsibility of birth control should rest on men. Y'all are fertile all the fucking time and most of your life. I'm fertile like 7 days a month and half my life if I'm lucky, and I got to take a pill every day. Scam. So that's what the post was, right?
Yes.
Women were around the post, and then I've had a few men who are like, yep, 100% true. That's fact. And then I've had a few men get their knickers in a knot about it and get all upset that I've targeted men. And they've asked for me to explain, because my response was, you totally missed the point in their rebuttal to the post.
Yeah.
They've totally missed the point because their focus has been on the fact that it feels like an attack on men. That's what the focus was. Because of their bruised egos, their response has been defensive, right? And so because I didn't want to engage in conflict, my response has been, you've just missed the entire point. And they've asked for justification. And I just been like, I don't want to, if you don't get it.
We're already doing so much work already, taking the pill, being responsible, all of that. You know, that's extra time out of your day.
Yes.
Yeah. And it is, you've just stated some facts there. And I think the last bit scam, very funny. So, you know, there's humour in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I've also missed. Yeah.
And it's just so funny how it has been by a couple of men, it has been, they've been so defensive and kind of attacked in response, or been really patronising about wanting an explanation further to what has been. I think the post is very self-explanatory. I don't think it needs to be diluted anymore, really.
Yeah. Yep. Right, you are. And what, like, this is going to be in your next show. I'm excited. What is it?
So there's some fun. Yeah, it's just really interesting when I post. I've started posting every now and then some stuff that's going to be related to the next show, and how the response has been, because the last 2 years, if not more, has been posts about my current show and how different a response I'm getting from those.
Yeah. They're like, stay in your lane, which is rude of them. But at the same time, something like that is not the most outrageous thing
No.
I've seen in my friendship circles. And we're so used to outrage and anger these days. We're so much more angry than we ever are in real life. We never feel, moments of, we would never attack someone like that in real life. We'll be like, justify yourself. I think it's great for research. It's just more material for you.
Oh.
So keep pushing those buttons.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. In relationships, have you ever come across a time where the fact that you're female, they're male, has caused friction, or that you can't come to an understanding on equal ground together, if that makes any sense?
Yeah. Especially around race issues.
Right.
So, because, I was quite resolved this time around that I'm going to try really hard to date people outside of being white. And it's sometimes you think, like Ali Wong says, like, it's just so much easier to date within your own race. Like, they get your food and weird habits and stuff like that.
Yes.
And especially so I went out and I was like, I'm going to swipe extra on like people maybe I wouldn't initially be attracted to, or like, let's really give him a shot. And interestingly, the guy that I'm seeing now, I really thought he was Lebanese or Jewish. It turns out the big beard was a scam. He's like, I'm like, oh, really? Like, you're fully white as well. He's like, yes. I'm like, damn it.
Damn it, you white man. Yeah.
Yes, because I didn't want to do any more educating around these things and being questioned a lot, especially people who get sensitive if it's male privilege or white privilege, that white fragility. So I think, I've got some boundaries now. Like, if I'm not willing to explain something, I just won't, and expect them to do their own research, and arguments that aren't worth having. Or yes. So luckily, the guy I'm seeing now reads heaps, very well read, and we haven't had like arguments that break down into like just being angry or like crying or whatever, which happened like previously because I was very close to these topics. But now, to distance things, and you can't change the world like immediately. So I'm going to pick my battles. And like, I'm already doing heaps in my career wise, like putting myself out there, making space for people. So it's not like I'm letting it go and just giving them a free pass, but where I can, I will, through my actions, and also helpful conversations rather than just lecturing or telling them off. But that comes back to being authentic to yourself, I think, Annie. If you are speaking from and being true to yourself, those conversations can be easier. Having those boundaries is so appropriate and needed for not only your self-worth but well-being as well. Yep. Yeah.
I've found that the more I'm being true to myself, those conversations about culture, race, life experience, and trying to see things through somebody else's lens, even though you don't have their lived experience, becomes easier and becomes a conversation instead of an argument and a battle.
Yeah. Yes.
So I'm learning so much. The man I'm with is a beautiful Aboriginal man, and I'm learning so much from his culture. I'm learning so much about the land in which we've grown up on through a very different and beautiful lens that we really, in this country, we have been deprived from what our country actually is, and where where we have grown up, because our history and what we are taught in schools are so whitewashed and so from one perspective. And there is so much beauty, richness, value, wisdom, and just so much goodness coming from our First Nations people that we've completely missed out on. We've completely missed out on, which is
100%.
It's fucking embarrassing. Like the things I'm learning, I am embarrassed about how our country was and is. It's pretty disgraceful.
Yeah, actually, yes. Yeah, because I had a similar discussion. It was early on when we were dating earlier in the year. And because he's not from here, from New Zealand, they have a very good understanding of Maori culture, and he expected me to have the same. So I felt like I had to represent Australia talking about these issues, and I just didn't have enough knowledge, and I was quite ashamed of that. But I can't be expected to represent Australia and know everything when the education system kind of failed as well. Like we don't have any of the language incorporated into anything really. Like, there's no kia ora equivalent in our emails, and just subtle little things that acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. So there's a lot of different things there, because I am somebody who is making use of this land, and also there's a lot of privilege there, even as migrants. So there's so much to unpack there. It could be its own discussion, but then he kind of stepped back going, I did not realize that the education here was so far behind, and that's why I grilled you so hard about that. I'm like, I really, I know I should know more, but this is all I can offer you. So we can't really engage in a debate about this. We haven't had any flare up since, but it was about race, and it was about it's at the start. Your first argument's very important, I think, as well. So there was a lot of understanding after that. It's quite devastating, like being an ex-teacher. And look, there are a lot of demands on teachers in general, and every year there seems to be more and more and more and more. But we've really missed the boat. Like a whole subject on learning about our history, our actual history of this country. You can choose as a teenager, I think you can choose to do Aboriginal studies as they go later in school. But even in history, from what I understand, because I wasn't a history teacher, but from what I understand, there are units within the curriculum that have stuff for students to learn about First Nations people and Aboriginal culture. But it's still a choice. People can, if they want to ignore it, they can.
It's not, and it is up to with the Australian curriculum, there are certain things that you have to implement, and there is a strand within each subject where you do have to do units of Aboriginal culture within the subject that you're teaching. But to me, that's too diluted. It's too diluted within the big umbrella of a particular subject. And for example, with history, there is so much European history taught still in schools about other, we need to learn more about I could go on about this.
Yes.
Back to relationships wise, I've found it in the past. I think I would have found the conversations more difficult and more not listening to listen and learn, rather than listening to either tell a story that is in line with what they've just told. It's really changed. I think this is because I was single for such a long time. It gave me the space to be content within myself to actually listen and properly learn from other people, which I think is really a good positive thing moving forward. relationship wise.
Yeah.
Because we do have so much to learn from each other, and there are so many similarities with values, in particular that I'm finding with Italian culture and Aboriginal culture. That is a great basis of understanding between us, that we then do have the space to learn about the differences and embrace those differences as well. Because within each culture, as you know, Annie, there are differences and they're there for a reason. There's always a reason why things are done the way that they're done within different cultures. And having that openness of spirit and heart and wanting and yearning to learn more about the person that you are with, I think can only do good in the long run, hopefully.
Yeah. And you're probably not expecting your partner to give you all the information either as a spokesperson or anything like that. So, yeah. And do you ever just go agree to disagree, or how do you resolve things that are hard?
That's a really good question. I think in regards to agree to disagree, I think when there is a conversation that happens where I've learned so much of how we react to things has to do with our own trauma and our own life experience, which then gives us a certain filter in which we receive information.
Yeah.
So there will be times where I will say something and it will be received in a completely different way than it is intended. But for me to say, I didn't intend for it to be like that, totally devalues the other person's experience and how they have digested that information. Sometimes subconsciously they don't even realize that their filter has affected the way that they're receiving it. And I think this comes with maturity a little bit as well. I know for sure when I was younger, in my early 20s, I would have definitely, look, we all think we're woke when we're young. We all think we know everything about everything. But as I've gotten older, I've learned that I know so little about so much, and I want to change that. Whenever there's differences or conflict, or we can't meet each other in the middle with some common understanding or common ground about something, I've found myself either going, we can revisit this conversation at another time if you want to, because we don't seem to be, we don't need to be
that's a good way to approach it
right now. Or if we're two opposing black and white, opposite, stubborn, like if we're standing so strong on the opposite ends of the spectrum, that's really an opportunity to either just park it, or like you say, agree to disagree, or it's an opportunity to go, from my experience, I have no understanding of that. Can you just please unpack that a bit more for me? Because I can't connect with what you're saying, and I'd like to, but I'm struggling to connect with your perspective.
The filter thing is very true, and we're so unaware of it that when I've heard somebody like there's something else at play as well, and I'm a very blunt person.
Oh my!
And, and there's things that I've managed to do that I've had no awareness of, but it's great that they can come to me and say why, or like that this has happened, because that is, that's helping me practice what I can do and be, just more caring in general. Now I sound like a cold, prickly lizard person, but throughout my life.
It's hard though, Annie, in the moment when emotions are involved and you're so passionate about what you're speaking on. It is sometimes really hard to take that step back and go, okay, what's the bigger picture here? What are we actually trying to achieve with this conversation?
Yes.
Is this comment or conversation or discussion something that we can let go? Like, are we able to let this go? Or is this something we actually need to find common ground on or find an understanding of each other on? I think it is unrealistic to expect having common ground on everything. I think that I've learned some, because I find it really hard to let things go. But I am finding with the beautiful man, and I keep saying beautiful man because his soul, he's just outside, inside. Look, I feel very grateful to even have us cross each other's paths. But that aside, I'm finding because he is very accepting and loving and encouraging of exactly who I am, no matter what my mood, it gives me the space to reciprocate that. Yeah, two individuals with two different life experiences are not always going to find common ground and understanding on everything with each other, and that's okay. Like that's just reality. We're never going to. But like you were saying before about, it's interesting in regards to culture and race and all that. I have found when I have tried to date an Italian man, I can't do it. I can't do it because there is.
What are the reasons?
There's just, I don't know. I seem to have attracted men that I've dated in the past, if we're of the same culture, and look, in general, if I'm honest, that are misogynistic, sexist fuckheads. Like that seems, that seems to be a pattern created.
Yes.
Even though there is an understanding fundamentally of like traditions and, like you said, you don't have to explain the intricacies or however you say that word, of why you do things the way you do within your culture.
Yeah.
I've just always gone, nah.
Yeah. I'm like, I can imagine that. The perfect person is like basically someone like me. I'm like, I just want to date myself. Like, second gen, like, or first gen, depending how you see it. But then somebody who's articulate, has drive, because I think that's, really important that they have their own thing. Like, is it that hard? I'm like, it has been that hard.
Yes. Oh, dude, I was single for like 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Fuck, it's hard. Yeah, it's fucking hard. And I jumped on and off the apps for a couple of years there. And then I was just like, this is just destroying my soul. I can't do this. Just the plethora of bullshit and people that lucky to even be able to string a sentence together effectively was just like, I can't. But maybe it's the state in which I live. I don't know.
Yeah, because you've got more choice in Melbourne, and I've heard it from friends who have lived in tiny country towns in Asia, and man, you've got 5 people, and that's it. So we are lucky to have choice, but with choice comes the pickiness, and you're always searching for, like, is this as good as it gets? Maybe there's something else. And every time that I was single, I'd go back on, it's like, totally new people, and you'd maybe see a few that you'd seen in the past, but it's a fresh batch. And that's and because I'd found one previously, a long-term relationship off Tinder, I still have faith in it. And then I've done weddings now where people have met on the apps, and that's like, that really restored my faith in it. And I think I knew I was fully healed when I could genuinely, because I could genuinely do a wedding and be super happy for these people, to have found each other. And like, often you come out bitter from a breakup, and I definitely went through that. But when I did my first wedding, and I saw the guy crying over while doing his vows and seeing his bride come down the aisle, I was like, I'm fully healed, everybody. Like, and that's when I went, like, back on the apps and could genuinely swipe happily and have more patience and all that, and not be my jaded old self.
But it's good to be picky though, Annie, because if you are looking for, it's a different thing if you're just looking for a fuck buddy and somebody just for now.
Yeah.
But if you are wanting somebody, essentially a pair of clothes that you are going to wear until you die, you have to make that decision. You can't be. I've had friends of mine throughout that period of time where I was single tell me off for how picky I was being. And I was like, well, hang on a minute. If the depths of my soul is saying fuck and run and get away from this person, what, I have to fight that for the rest of my life just because I think I'm being too picky?
No, yeah. Oh, no, there's a lot of trash out there. Like, I don't know where I was reading, but like women, we are looking immaculate. We're going about powering through our career and like we're expected to say yes to the guy on the couch with Doritos and track pants. Like, you know, we've gone and we've worked on ourselves. We're like, this is the best version of myself. I'm looking at it through tinted glasses now that I'm off it, probably. Like, you know, have some patience, everybody. And at the time, I'm like, this is a bin fire.
It fucking is. It fucking is. But you know what? I've come to feel at peace with the fact that I know that who I am is not going to be for everyone. And that's okay. That is the point. That's the exact point. I don't want to be for everyone. If I was for everybody, then I wouldn't be being true to myself. There'd be no authenticity there because I'd be trying to aim to fulfill everybody else's needs instead of making sure that my needs are also being met. So the fact that I can say, fuck, man, there's so much shit out there, I'm sure there'd be, you know, men out there saying the same thing about, nah, I can't say that. I can't say that. But something that kept me going, and I don't know if this resonates with you or not, Annie, but something that kept me going throughout those 6-7 years of being single. And I dated one guy who was, oh my God, I know why I dated him, but I really wish I didn't. Yeah. But obviously, I didn't love myself enough, and that's why I attracted that person. That's another story. But throughout that time, I like to think of, like with my cabaret stuff, if I exist, so does my audience. So I then translated it to, if I exist, so does the person I'm supposed to be with.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I've never heard this. Yeah, I like that.
So that kept me going. Yeah, that kept me going because there were definite times throughout that long period of time where I was like, oh, well, like you were saying before, I'll just be single. I've got my 2 dogs. Yeah. I actually love the life that I've created for myself. I do so much I enjoy and love. There's people around me that I am very grateful that I have in my life. If this is what my life looks like and I'm just an auntie to a whole heap of kids, then fantastic. I'm happy with where I'm at now, so I'm going to hold on to that joy. But there were definite times where I was like, oh, well, this is fucked. If that person's married with kids, really that person is, and I can't get that together.
No, you've made me think of a lot of different things there. But getting into a relationship's easy. You know, that's easy. Anyone can do it. Getting married is so easy. I think, if you're desperate enough, there's people out there.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay, yeah.
You know? Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and I think I started reflecting, thinking I need to be with somebody who makes me way happier, like more happy days than sad days, because when the balance was tipped over, I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like staying in a relationship just to get the mileage up, or to like long term was you know what I mean? Like long term was always like seemed like the goal, and I put that on the pedestal because that's what everybody else was valuing and getting you closer to like marriage and a house and kids or whatever. And when I think back to it, like, is that really what I want? And like, I've never really liked kids, and I think I'm getting to that stage now where like, you kind of start thinking about it. I'm like, again, maybe I've always been a bit outside of the box, so I'm not too concerned. Like, it could go either way. I know I can be happy either way. Either way, I could be happy in a relationship or out, and they're none of them are bad choices. So when you think about, I don't know. Yeah.
Have you ever had
either way.
somebody say to you, because you're a creative and because you're an artist, that it's not fair for you to expect to be in a relationship because artists are unpredictable and therefore not good material for somebody else who's normal, in inverted commas?
Wow.
To have. I've had that. I've had people be like, you can't expect to be in a relationship because you're an artist. So artists are unpredictable. So you can't put that on somebody else.
Is it emotionally unpredictable, or our schedules, or everything?
Everything.
Fair enough, scheduling can be difficult, but if you can absolutely make it work. There's so many versions of relationships now, whether it's long distance or, like, I think it's helpful when one person has a bit more stability, and and I wouldn't date comedians. Like, that's just off the cards for me, because
why do you say that?
Because we're all a bit fucked up, and like, there's a reason why you want to be a stand-up, and I know how fucked up I am. That's why we can't have two fucked up people. It's too much. Like, I'd have to interrogate them, like, what's wrong with you? Why do you want to get up there and talk? Like, why? So I've never gone down that path. So I guess I have always looked for people who can compliment me. Like, I'm not the best with, like, finances and maths and STEM type things, but it's not like you have to find, like, opposites attract or anything like that. But for me, it's been helpful, because like, I enjoy coming back, like, if I've been traveling and stuff, and that person like, is my rock. And I can be a little bit everywhere sometimes. So just to have someone be like, it's all good, It's
all good, baby. I got
it's all
you.
good, yeah. But I've never had people tell me that you can't have a relationship, or that thing's not for you.
Oh, yeah.
And who are they to say it's not for you?
Yeah, motherfuckers. Yeah. I've had that heaps. By, like, either I had that a lot on the apps from guys when they found out what I do and that I travel with my shows. I had that a lot from guys. And then I've even had, like, older women say to me, Carla, your expectation of having a relationship is unrealistic because you're an artist.
Huh.
Yeah, I was like, sorry? What? Yeah. Oh,
man. Yeah, no.
Joyful, yeah.
I did have one more thing. It slipped my mind now on that. Yeah, I think it's because they were looking for reasons to, like, oh, you've been single for that long, it must be because of this.
Yeah.
They're just mining for an excuse or something, rather than saying you might be perfectly happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you felt during the 7 years. You would have gone through all sorts of emotions.
Oh, mate,
I'm sure.
everywhere. Every fucking where. Everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. Up, down, sideways. Oh, my God. Look, I'm glad. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad I stayed single for that long. I'm glad. But I also think there was external forces forcing me to stay single, like, and internal forces, and I just hadn't met the right person. I just hadn't met somebody who was going to see me for who I am and embrace me just as much as I embrace them,
Yeah. You remind me, one of the most frequently asked questions when I was on the apps was, are you going to write jokes about me? And I found that so annoying.
Oh, my God.
Do you think you're that interesting that I would write jokes about you? Like,
yeah.
Maybe if you did something, like, cool or hilarious, maybe. Or if you go the opposite way and you completely are an asshole, like, then I have to write jokes about you. So, like, just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick and you won't be in there. That's fine.
Yeah.
No, I had that heaps on online dating as well. I had So probably 95% of the dates that I went from online dating, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, they would ask me, also, you're going to write this in your show?
Yeah.
I was like, hang on, mate. Like, we've just sat down. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh, they get so protective about it already without giving it a shot. And that's why I didn't really want to say comedian on any of my profiles, because they'll always either be like, tell us a joke, or are you going to write jokes about me? And it was starting to get a little difficult.
Annie, when people do that, how do you feel when people go, tell us a joke? Because I get sing us a song a lot. Oh, I feel like such a weirdo. What are you doing?
What do you put? Do you put singer, performer? What do you put on your?
I used to put cabaret artist on my social stuff, but even like when meeting new people, when they find out what I do, their first response is sing us a song. I'm like, I feel like such a weirdo. Like, what do you mean? Like, what?
No, and not a performing monkey. And I always think back to, they're not expected to do their job or prove that they can do it. You know, do us a surgery, would you? You know,
cut me open, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, so I tried, hiding it, being like freelancer or just like writer or presenter or something like that. But eventually it will come out. It gets to the what do you do question pretty fast. So
especially with the white people, that's a real question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a fun challenge, is go to a party or a networking event and try not to ask what do you do for as long as possible. Yeah, just keep that counter ticking along. But yeah, I think the what I like the most is when people just go, oh yeah, that's really cool, and then they continue just getting to know you outside of the job. Because your job doesn't really define you. And as much as I love doing comedy, it's taken a while to realize, like, oh yes, I do have other interests and other aspects of me, because you have to, otherwise you can't keep doing that thing, because it's at the end of the day still a job. But then I started finding people who had come to my shows were swiping with me and then revealing it way too late. They're like, I'm like, oh no, now, okay, they're actually a super fan. Oh shit, park the brakes.
Get me out of here. In regards to asking, like, what you do for work and all that kind of stuff, like, does your culturally, when you meet new people, is the question what you do for work or where are you from? Because I know with Italian culture, my dad in particular, if he knows he's just met another Italian or another European, where are you from? That's like one of the first questions he asks.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
used to be embarrassed by that as a kid. I used to be like, Dad, what the fuck are you asking? Stop asking people where they're from. But that's so
I just did that the other day because I was interviewing a guy in the UK, an academic, and at the end of the conversation, we were just doing the where are you from, just like sniffing each other's butts, and there was somebody in the conversation on Zoom too recording the whole thing, and he just like tuned out to go like, I don't know, upload footage or something, and it was just like, where are you from? Oh no, yeah, cool, yeah, you probably know this person or this town and all of that. And it does remind me, like, there's crossovers between Indigenous culture and lots of other cultures, and it's like the first thing you might say is, where's your mob? So it's like a bit of that.
Got a joke about that in your show.
So I definitely think we don't care as much what you do and all of that. We just want to sniff out, like, oh, what food do you eat? And like, what language do you speak and all of that stuff. China's a huge country, so you got to start somewhere. A bit of common ground.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because Australians don't ask that. Australians don't have where you're from.
Yes.
It's very much straight.
Unless it's they need to know your ethnicity.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, because it doesn't have as much meaning for us. Yeah. Like, like where I live, North Melbourne's not that different to Fitzroy, so it's like, it's a bit boring.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of The Catchalorette and Friends. Make sure you follow the podcast at The Catchalorette Pod on Instagram. And if you think your love journey is worth sharing with me on the podcast, send me an email, thecatchalorettepod@gmail.com, or slide into my Instagram DMs. Oh, and don't forget to give the podcast a review and tell all your motherfucking people to listen to the show. Now let's get back to this episode. Before I love and leave you, Annie, are there any words of wisdom when it comes to love, relationships, or dating you would like to impart?
That's a massive question.
You're welcome.
Maybe I'll go back and what have I learned over the last couple of years? Well, from a career perspective, it can't go badly because you just end up with more material. So, at the end of the day, it was a fact-finding expedition. Oh, okay. This is from the other side of me as well. Dates are not job interviews. You're not trying to pass. And if you get a second date out of it, it's not always a good thing, you know what I mean? You got to say no too. So, because I find that every time I rock up, I'm like, oh, I want this person to like me, but sometimes you don't want that person to like you because you're not a good fit. Long term is not the end goal to be in a long term relationship, and you learn something from every relationship. So it's not a fail when you break up.
That's important. Because we are so indoctrinated to think if a relationship doesn't work, it's a failure.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very important. I like that. I think that's a beautiful note to end on and what we can all ponder on after this podcast episode. No, that's really important. That's really important, Annie.
Yeah, and forgiveness too, actually. Yeah. Like forgiving that person who might have hurt you and also forgiving yourself for anything that it was it's a natural progression. So don't be too harsh on former you for any of your choices. Yeah, whether you dated a bunch of meatheads or whatever, it's
harder to
where you are
forgive
today.
Yourself though, Annie,
absolutely,
than it is to forgive others. I find.
Yeah. Yes. Zoe Foster Blake says immediately, in her Breakup Boss book, imagine pouring love, opening the door to the person who hurt you and just filling them with love and light. And bless you, just sneeze.
Thank you.
I think that mental image helped me a lot. Like even though if you're angry at somebody, you just keep pouring in that love and dousing the fire, and eventually, it just becomes part of your experience. It doesn't hurt anymore to think about. But that's just breakup advice. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, that's lovely. It's perfect. Thank you so much, Annie. This has been an excellent conversation. I have loved all of it. It's been brilliant.
Thanks, Carla. Thanks so much.
The Catchalorette, with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time, if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.